It is amazing to me that as recently as today, I read American comments like, Black people have never done anything to make America better. How can that be? When we think about successful Blacks in America, who do you think about? Sports stars? Musicians? Actors? If I asked you to name three Black inventors of innovative STEM products that impacted the world, can you name any? We have been lied to about the history of Black Americans. So let's do some corrective education. Hats for women were all the rage, and milliners were master designers of the craft. One woman, May Reeves, was a pioneering milliner who created showstoppers. Reeves was born in Georgia in 1912 and lived to the age of 104. She made extraordinary hats for over 50 years. May's millinery shop opened in Philadelphia in 1942 and was one of the first owned by a Black woman. Her clients included celebrities such as Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, Eartha Kitt, Marian Anderson, and socialites from illustrious families, including the DuPonts and the Annenbergs. Women from all professions and, of course, church women who loved sporting hats came to May Reeves. She made trips to New York City and Paris, France for materials used in her custom made hats. In 2016, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture opened a permanent exhibit of Reeves' extensive hat collection, personal items, sewing machine, antique shop furniture, and the shop's original red neon sign. Look at the smiling face of Willis Hinton, born enslaved in 1840. After emancipation, Hinton became the owner and operator of two successful businesses in High Point, North Carolina. He was a kind, friendly, hard-working man, loved and respected by Black and white residents. His early career was laying track for the North Carolina Railroad. After a factory injury, he was forced to resign. Hinton looked to a career as an entrepreneur. Little by little, Hinton accumulated property. By 1883, he had saved enough money to open a cafe on South Main Street. In 1888, Hinton sold his prosperous cafe and opened an 11-room hotel, the Hinton Hotel on Washington Street. His was the first Black-owned hotel in High Point. Business savvy must have run in the family. Hinton's brother Albert was also a successful businessman. From 1874 to 1877, Albert operated a brickyard that supplied necessary materials for many buildings in the expanding town of High Point. Sarah Garnett was born in 1831, but she was an influencer. In 1866, she was hired to teach and serve as principal of the prestigious Manhattan Colored School Number 7 and retired in 1900 after serving 37 years. She was also founder of the Equal Suffrage League in Brooklyn, New York, fighting for women's rights. Garnett became superintendent of suffrage for the National Association of Colored Women. Two public schools in New York City are named for Garnett. PS 9 Brooklyn was renamed Sarah Smith Garnett Public School 9 in 2019, and PS 11 in Manhattan was renamed the Sarah J. Garnett School in 2022. Her sister, Susan McKinley Stewart, was the first Black woman in New York State to earn a medical degree and the third in the country. In 1911, Garnett traveled with her sister to London, England for the inaugural Universal Races Congress, where Stewart presented the paper Colored American Women. In 1875, Oliver Lewis became the jockey who won the first Kentucky Derby, America's longest continuous sporting event. Lewis was born free in 1856 in Kentucky. He was only 19 years old when he entered the race, but blacks in Kentucky had a long history of working with horses. Out of the 15 jockeys that day, 13 were black. 10,000 spectators watched from the stands as Lewis rode Aristide to victory. Aristide's trainer, Ansel Williamson, was also black. Later that season, Lewis rode Aristide to second place at the Belmont Stakes in New York and won 3 more races at the Louisville Jockey Club with the famed horse. However, he would never ride in another Kentucky Derby. He retired from racing and pursued business interests. Minnie Cox served with distinction as postmaster of Indianola, Mississippi, beginning in 1891. During Reconstruction, postmasters were appointed by the President of the United States. She received appointments from Presidents Benjamin Harrison, William McKinley, and Theodore Roosevelt due to her innovative and outstanding service with mail delivery. Despite exemplary service, the white townspeople demanded she retire after the Reconstruction era ended. President Roosevelt was outraged and refused to accept Miss Cox's resignation letter. But fear for her life and to avert threats of imminent violence, she resigned in 1903. Cox was an educator before working at the post office, but she looked to business opportunities and founded the Delta Penny Savings Bank and the Mississippi Life Insurance Company. Both were among the first black businesses of this kind in Mississippi. Slavery to upper middle class in a generation? We all know the story of Frederick Douglass, enslaved in his early life. But America afforded his family opportunities to rise out of poverty and into an esteemed social class. Consider his grandson, Joseph Henry Douglass, who became a concert violinist and one of the first black performers to be nationally and internationally renowned. His influence came at an early age from his father and grandfather, who were both amateur violin players. Joseph studied violin at the Boston Conservatory. Douglas received his first big break as a concert violinist at the age of 22 when he performed at the World's Columbian Exposition, also known as the Chicago World's Fair. On August 25th, 1893, performers joined together to celebrate Colored American Day, where a large audience assembled to enjoy his performance. Sarah Rector's story was well known in 1913 after the Kansas City Star published the groundbreaking headline, Millions to a Negro Girl. Born in a 2-room cabin near Twine, Oklahoma, her family was allotted land as part of the Muskogee Creek Indian tribe. Her parents, Joseph and Rose Rector, had been enslaved by the tribe. When Oklahoma statehood became imminent in 1907, the Dawes Allotment Act divided Creek lands and included former enslaved members. Therefore, Sarah, her parents, brother, and sister received land. Lands granted to former slaves were usually rocky ground and unfit for agricultural use. In 1911, Sarah's father leased her allotment to the Devonian Oil Company of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to raise money needed to pay the $30 annual tax bill. In 1913, Sarah's fortunes changed when wildcat oil driller B.B. Jones produced a gusher that brought in 2,500 barrels a day. Sarah Rector received an income of $300 per day. Her guardianship was switched from her parents to a white man named T.J. Porter, who was trusted by the family. Multiple new wells were produced on Rector's property that subsequently became part of the famed Cushion Drumright Field in Oklahoma, earning her millions. About that black stem inventors question, here are a few.